Hey guys, welcome back to Follow Me 11B. Discussions on current events, macroeconomics, and freedom and liberty from a veteran's perspective. Today I wanted to give an update on the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war and talk a bit about the potential genocide in the Ukraine. So let's start things off with a news article I came across from BusinessInsider.com entitled, Russia claims it did not massacre civilians in the Ukraine, citing conspiracy theories that evidence was manipulated or filmed with crisis actors. It's by Tom Porter from the 4th of April, 2022. Russia is deploying disinformation as it denies being behind atrocities in Bucha, Ukraine. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described accounts of atrocities against civilians as fake. And as evidence emerged of mass killings in the Ukrainian town of Bucha, Russia deployed a familiar playbook of conspiracy theories and disinformation to argue it was not responsible. Images from Bucha, near Kyiv, emerged Sunday, provoking international condemnation. They show corpses strewn across the streets, some with their hands bound. Ukrainian officials, Bucha's mayor, Antonelli Fedoruk, and multiple witnesses from the town said the people were civilians murdered by Russian soldiers before they withdrew last week in the face of a counteroffensive from Ukraine. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky said that women were raped before they were killed and that children were also among the dead. At last count, too, I have, during the research of this, there was over 400 bodies discovered in mass graves and more being found daily. So at least 400 bodies found in mass graves, and it sounds like more to be discovered. But moving on with the article, Russia's response was to say that none of it was true. Quote, all of the photos and videos published by the Kyiv regime in Bucha are just another provocation, said a tweet from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs Sunday, describing the claims of atrocities as another, quote, hoax by the Kyiv regime for the Western media, unquote. Russian state media and several Russian embassies promoted a debunked conspiracy theory which claimed that supposedly dead bodies were moving, citing video from when a convoy of Ukrainian forces entered the town. Cindy Otis, a disinformation expert and former U.S. intelligence analyst, told Insider that the Russian denials were consistent with the playbook it's deployed to evade blame for earlier atrocities. Quote, they claim Ukraine is blowing up their own buildings, or they promote conspiracies about paid crisis actors. Now they're doing the same post-Bucha, said Otis. So, get a little bit more into that in a moment. But let's go to another news article first that I thought was of interest as well. This one's entitled, Putin's former chief economic advisor says Russia would likely halt the Ukraine war within a month or two if the West slapped a full embargo on Russia oil and gas. It's by Ryan Hogg from the 10th of April. And I did not cite this properly, but I believe this one is perhaps from Politico. Anyway, I'll leave it in the notes where this article came from. But it was predicted Russia would be spared complete economic devastation thanks to its strength with imports, particularly energy imports. A quarter of Russia's economy, with the country a heavyweight exporter of oil, gas, precious metals, and grain. The International Energy Agency estimates that Russia accounts for 45% of the European Union's gas imports, and the bloc says it receives most of its oil from Russia. Every 2.5 days, €1 billion comes into Putin's pockets. That's extremely helpful for Putin to continue to keep his system running, to continue to finance the war. Once this currency flow is interrupted, Putin will have to rethink his policies because he won't have much resources to finance further aggression. EU countries have pledged to wean themselves off Russian energy, and the U.S. has promised to export more liquefied natural gas to members of the bloc. However, the high prices of oil and natural gas mean Russia's income from energy exports could rise by more than a third in 2022 compared with 2021, according to Bloomberg Economics. So, again, they're going to try to wean themselves off of Russian fuel, Russian energy, but again, the International Energy Agency estimates that Russia accounts for 45% of the European Union's gas imports. Almost half of the entire European Union's gas imports comes from Russia. That is largely in part because Europe has fully embraced green energy. And green energy is good. It could be great at some point. But right now, it's good at best. Solar power works when the sun's shining. Wind power works when it's a windy day. Besides that, you need to have fuel. You need to have coal-powered energy. You need to have petroleum-powered energy. It's just that simple. Otherwise, I mean, you're basically getting yourself. I mean, this is what Russia or what Europe has done to themselves. Let's put it in the form of a piece of food, shall we? So, if you can imagine energy as a hot dog and green energy as the relish and the mustard and the ketchup and maybe the bun. So basically what Europe has done is they've fixed themselves up with a great bun. They've got a bunch of ketchup. They've got the mustard. They got the relish. And they've got a few hot dogs. They've got everything they need except the actual hot dogs. So they've got a lot of green energy stuff. But it's basically the condiments that go on top of the actual hot dog, which is natural gas. It's liquefied natural gas. It's petroleum, etc. So they've gotten themselves into a jam, and hopefully we're going to be able to help them out. But we're kind of in a jam in the U.S. ourselves because for a while now, for the last year and a half at least, we have kind of shot ourselves in one of our feet, tied our hands behind our back to as far as producing energy in this country. So we're kind of trying to go the way of Europe, at least for the last year and a half, and we're kind of putting the cart before the horse. We probably want to, make sure that the green energy that we're shooting for is capable of supporting us before we shut off the energy that is currently supporting us. Just an idea. If anybody from Washington, D.C. is watching. All right, back to the war, though. This week, on Tuesday, Vladimir Zelensky went to the United Nations, and as he's been going around to many countries, and he basically did a Zoom presentation, a video presentation, live in front of the United Nations, kind of asking for more assistance. Please set up a no-fly zone. Do what you can for us. And here's some of the things that some of these countries have done so far. So far, NATO's kind of let them down for the most part. They've provided some assistance, but they haven't given them tanks. They haven't given them helicopters. They haven't given them planes that he's been asking for. But Czech Republic, just a few days ago on the 7th, they agreed, and they're sending tanks. They're sending infantry fighting vehicles. They're sending multiple rocket launchers. They're sending howitzers, I think night vision goggles, etc. And the end of last month, UK agreed to send Starstreak missiles, which is a shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missile. These are great. However, they need more. I'm certainly not calling for the United States boots on the ground. I think that would be a bad idea. I think any of the NATO countries going to the Ukraine, it's going to be World War III guaranteed. But this is what Ukraine or UK, the Brits, decided to do. Germany and the United Kingdom decided no tanks. Period. They're not going to do it. But the Brits did decide to send, and this is the title of an article from a Ticker News article, UK to send, quote, game changer anti-ship Harpoon missiles to Ukraine. But what are they? I'm not going to get into the article, but they're Harpoon missiles. It's by Aran Young from Ticker News if you want to look it up. It was published on April 10th. Harpoon missiles are used to knock out ships. So I think the idea is they want to not let Russia completely seal up the Black Sea, because that is, that used to be the Ukraine, and that Black Sea trade routes used to be the breadbasket of the world. So topic for another day, but food crisis on the way, food shortages, food crisis. But they want to avoid that as much as possible. So this is a way that they can fight back against some of these blockades, some of these troops landing on the beach. They can knock out some of the ships, or at least they have the potential to do that now. But this is what I think is a potential for Vladimir Zelensky and Ukraine to potentially even end this conflict. He went to the UN. He asked for a no-fly zone. He asked for all kinds of stuff. I don't think NATO countries at all, none of them, are going to give him much of what he wants. But I think that the UN, especially in light of the bad publicity with the mass graves, etc., are perhaps, I think there's a better than average chance, going to put together a peacekeeping force and maybe put it just west of the Donbass region or just north of Crimea, etc., so that the Russians don't move any farther into the country. Now, if Ukraine is willing to accept this, that's a whole different thing. But I think that's a quick way to stop the fighting for now, at least. I don't think that Russia wants to go to war with everybody. I think that they've got their hands full with Ukraine. But if this was a peacekeeping force, I mean, you'd see perhaps Japan, perhaps Ethiopia, perhaps Thailand, some of the lesser known countries as far as peacekeeping forces that you might not expect to see in something like this, maybe led by a Western country such as Australia, which is not in NATO. So, just an idea. But the latest news I heard right before I made this video, though, Russia is getting ready to make a major offensive in the eastern part of Ukraine, the Donbass region. It looks like there's an 8-mile convoy headed for it right now, and only time will tell what we see over the next few days. But it looks like a big offensive in the eastern part of the country, and who knows, maybe they'll stop there. But I could be wrong. I would love to hear what you guys think. I would love to see you put some comments in below the video. Subscribe to this channel, guys. And don't forget to check us out, follow us, like us at Twitter and Facebook at FollowMe11B. And don't forget to visit us at TheRealFollowMe11B on Instagram. And we will see you all on the next video.